Chuck and Stephanie and Marge and myself and Kurt and Margot from Germany decided to go on a hike up to an old talc mine. This was probably shut down somewhere, maybe the last talc ore was taken out of there in the 1980s. But it's a very historical, wonderful place to go. And so hop in and we're ready to go. Up to the mine, but little beknownst to us, the road has been destroyed by some storms. And so the road that switchbacks up this very steep mountain is pretty much gone. That the winter's rain or summer's rains have washed a bunch of dirt across the road and washed part of it out. But we're going to give it a try and see if we can make it. At first it seemed like our plan was going to work. The road didn't seem all that bad, although it looks like it's getting steeper on up ahead. But at least it has switchbacks to keep it from being terribly steep. We go up the road and just find a rock or two washed across it, but that's alright. If we have to, we can get out and throw that out of the way. And then we go on up a little farther and around the next switchback, and it doesn't look quite as good up here. There's no vegetation to take up the rainwater, and so any bit of rain that comes there just has to run off. And it looks like it took part of the mountain with it. We've got a shovel here. We were first trying to dig the road out to where we could get past, but then someone went up ahead and found that there were more of these spots. So the only thing we can do is just try to get back where we can turn around and walk on up the trail on foot. The neat part about walking up this road is we have an excellent view of the desert down below us, where if we were riding up we wouldn't be able to see so much nice scenery. And the neat part about the desert, that's not good for farmland or too many other things, and so the minerals seem to be there, like all sorts of different minerals and gold and silver. But at this time, this is a talc mine. First they mine for gold and silver till that sort of played out a little. Then they turn to things like talc and borax and salt to try to make their fortune. Chuck backs a pickup down to where it'll be safe. One thing we don't have to worry about is traffic on this road, because it looks to me like it's totally blocked off. But at one time they hauled truckloads of talc ore down here to take it to market. The first time we drove down the main road out front, we had to wait up on top of a hill till two great big belly dump 18-wheeler trucks ground their way up over the top, and they had talc piled high on top of their load. So they hauled a lot of talc out of here at one time, and there still is a market for it. They use a lot of it in making computer chips now and different things. We look out over the scenery below, and then it's time Chuck wants to try a call on his cell phone. We reach the top of the mountain, and Chuck and Stephanie's little dog Z always has a little barking spell when we reach a certain point in our journey after we've had a challenge, and then we can sit back and relax. And Z always sings the song of the desert. And the rest of us can stand up on top of the mountain and look out over the valley below and the adjacent mountains. What a sight and what a view from up here, worth every inch we've climbed up. Now we just step over the top and we see lots of evidence of where the old mining went on. We examine some of the old mine timbers that were left here to rot by the miners of yesteryear. Chuck knows how these timbers were put in and what you call each piece of it, and also the dimensions of them, as he looks it over and explains to us how they timber a mine. There's a lot more stuff here than just mine timbers. There was structures built here, all having something to do with the digging the talc out of the mountain. They didn't have to go in real deep to get their talc out. They just, it was quite plentiful here, and so it was fairly easy to get out. And so we'll look at some of the old equipment. There were some old rails, and Chuck even knew what size rails they were, that they'd run their ore carts on to haul the ore out and dump. And then there's a bunch of really heavy winches and pulleys and cables here that were all part of the talc operation. There were some pretty big old ore buckets here that were used to haul this talc up to where they could get it up and load it in their trucks to haul it to market. Like most old mines, old auto parts were the official thing to make your stuff out of. And look at the ingenuity of these people that were digging for talc up here. Someone holds a piece of talc up for us to look at. At least they didn't get it all. And then huge cables and other things that are, a lot of them are just plain homemade things out of old auto parts. And then we see the mine tracks here where they'd haul the ore out and hoist it up and put it on their big they'd run it down a chute into their big trucks to grind down the mountain and take it down and put it in a bin down at the bottom of the mountain till they got enough to load their really huge trucks. Some cactus are growing here, and Z's looking. We find an old mine here, and it looks to me like that deserves a closer look. So we'll go on in and see what's in there. There's a pipe up above that was probably to run their tools and maybe for ventilation of the mine. I forgot my flashlight, and we had one flashlight that wasn't quite enough, but we'll go in and take a look at where they blasted talc right out of the big mountain ahead of us. All of us men will go inside the mine and take a look, and the women are going to sit outside and chatter and take pictures and enjoy the nice sunny day as we go deep in the talc mine. It doesn't go in a whole long ways, but it's got a lot of good timbers in there. But It took a special breed of man, I guess, to work these talc mines, and probably breathing that stuff in there, and particularly after you've blasted it, it probably wouldn't be that healthy. Talc isn't that healthy to breathe, although this stuff here is better quality than a lot of it in other places. There's less problem with breathing the dust from it. We go outside and look at several other spots where they've had a talc mine, and then we go back down and find the bin they put it in to load their big trucks. Now it's time to go look at where these miners live, so we'll go to Beverage Canyon cabin, which is still there. It's kinda used for you can stay in it as long as there's no one else there, and someone's even gone to the trouble to set a mouse trap. And there's a few things in there. Although the water is no longer hooked up, the water line has washed out, so there's no longer water in the cabin. But at the time the miners were here, they kept it running.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, and an old gas hot water heater?
Yep. Turn it on valve.
Oh, look at here's a nest.
25 turn.
A nest in the wash rag.
Oh, it's a bird's nest.
And birds have. Oh, the birds hatched out of it.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
See, there's an egg in it.
Feathers, I think.
And look at the eggs.
Yeah, there's feathers.
Apparently this is the bedroom.
We ought to use the toilet while we're in here. He says it'd be just fine forever.
And it's just novel and 5 patients.
I'll be darned. Well, I suppose it's history, isn't it? And there's the lanterns up there.
It says sign log, please. You have to sign log.
An old barrel stove there.
How many?
You a house dog, Z? Looks like it.
Let's see what.
And look, there's a tire with a split rim. Yeah, there's even a bunkhouse here with everything you need to
Plenty
bunk
of beds
out
in here.
It even has a wood stove in it.
They said in May it was there.
There's a great big old truck down here. It had one time been a crane carrier, and they've converted it. The old crane carrier / dump truck. This dump truck had one time been a crane carrier, and Chuck thinks that some of the heavy winches we found up at the mine were off the crane. So I'm going to get in this old dump truck and just see what the people must have seen that drove this machine. It had all kinds of gears and transmissions. I'll bet that was a fun old truck to drive, but I don't know whether I'd have wanted to drive down that switchback road that we walked up. I think that might have been just a little bit risky, and I don't know how the brakes were in these old trucks. Probably not the world's greatest, but at least they made it, and the truck isn't banged up either. It looks like the old truck is pretty much complete. Probably if someone were into restoring old trucks, this might be a good. It even looks as if it had a special separate motor to run the dump truck up, the dump bed up and down. The bed is way too short for the truck, but they were improvisers and made do with what they had. These were very interesting old trucks. it it just had a half a cab on it. That way there was room for the boom of the crane to go up forward, and I'll bet it was a neat sounding old truck when it was going. And I don't know what kind of brake system they had on it, but I'll bet it was just barely. Looks like I got a liberal coating from that old truck steering wheel on my hands. Then we look over the edge, and here's the most interesting snake I've ever seen. They don't have these up where we come from, but he is a real beauty. And I'm guessing he's non-venomous. I think he's called a common king snake, and may be quite common down here, but I've never seen anything like it up in our area. They apparently don't range that far north. But whatever he is, he's very unusual for us, all of us being from 1,000 miles north, to see such a snake. He seems to be kind of a sassy little devil too. Chuck sticks his walking stick over there and he strikes it. But I don't think he's venomous anyway. I haven't looked that up for certain, but I'm just guessing that he isn't. This is the end of our hike back in time, and we certainly need subscribers. If you could subscribe, it would definitely be appreciated.